Before we begin, please be advised that this episode contains discussions and a personal story about sexual abuse and assault regarding a minor child. These topics may be distressing for some listeners. We encourage you to take care of your emotional well-being and seek support if needed.
Welcome to the Family Journey Show, brought to you by Finally Home. Each month, we'll be live with conversations between our Finally Home team and leading experts. Our mission is to provide you with the insights, strategies, and encouragement you need to navigate the unique challenges and joys of your family journey. Whether you're a foster parent, an adoptive caregiver, or a kinship guardian, this show is designed with you in mind. We'll be diving deep into topics that matter most to you, from managing big emotions and building strong family bonds to accessing mental health resources and advocating for your children's needs. So, grab a cup of coffee, get comfortable, and let's embark on this journey together. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Welcome to the Family Journey Show, where support, community, and resilience grow strong roots.
Welcome to Finally Home's Family Journey Show, where we talk about things that are important to families like ours, foster, adoptive, and kinship families. I'm Kristen Orphan, co-founder of Finally Home, here with my co-host and husband, Mark.
Hello and welcome. Today is a really special day to us because we get to introduce to you one of our very favorite people, Andrew Wilson. We met Andrew several years ago at church, and it's been an absolute privilege to watch him come to know Jesus fully as his Savior and to hand over every part of his life to God and God's redemptive power in his life and his family. Andrew has truly come from the darkness into the light, and he loves to tell people about what Jesus has done for him. Andrew is now the youth pastor at Genesis Project Church and one of Finally Home's mentors to incarcerated youth in Northern Colorado. Andrew is married to Bianca, and they have 3 children, including 1 adopted son. We went to court, and what a great day it was on that special adoption day a few months ago, and listened to Andrew tell the judge that his greatest desire was to raise Indio to know Jesus Christ. Wow. Andrew, welcome, and thank you for being with us.
Hi, you guys.
Andrew, your story has been just such an incredible thing to get to watch unfold. And the only word I could think of is redemption. And one of the things I love about you is you love to tell your story. Over these years, we've watched you become more and more open about it, even about the very hardest parts that many would be tempted to just kind of hide away. So we are just, we're honored to have you here today. And my very first question, we're just going to get right into it, Andrew. What would you say was one of the most difficult experiences that impacted you as a child and then went on to really impact the trajectory of your life?
So when I was about 4 years old, we actually moved back from Kentucky, and we were living with my aunt, and we were at this place, and she had some neighbors. Well, at this time, the neighbor, he would always kind of show me all these cool toys and stuff. And eventually he would, there was these creepy crawler things that I always see on TV, and I really wanted them. And he said, do you want those? And I said, yeah, I want those. And so the next week I came over, and he had those creepy crawlers. Well, he would take me to the back room, and he would eventually rape me and tell me that that was the only way I was going to get to play with those toys. And if I were to tell anyone, that he would hurt my mom and my brother. So I kind of kept it a secret until I was actually probably about 25 years old. I didn't tell anyone, just because it took away a lot from me. It took my manhood away. It took everything away from me. So I truly never thought I could be a man. And I had to, at an early age, learn how to lie and keep a secret from everyone. So it really impacted my life, not just taken away from my childhood, but it also impacted me on starting my lying at an early age.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Andrew, we talk a lot about resilience in the work that we do, and just this ability that God gives us to bounce back, and we know that you've done that. How can you explain some of the ways that you have been able to overcome such a devastating part of your story and the abuse that you described?
Yeah, so it was a couple of years ago. When I got baptized, I kind of told Zeta, which is our coordinator, our communications coordinator at Genesis Project, and I told her what happened to me. And I said, I don't want to share that part of my story. Well, fast forward, we went to youth camp, and I was speaking at the youth camp, and I ended up telling over 150 kids that I was raped. At the end of that, I had a bunch of kids come up to me and tell me, well, I could be a man too because that happened to you. I didn't realize that me hiding the secret from everybody was actually going to be something that could impact their lives and impact mine. Now that I've been able to share what's going on in my life, it has no stronghold over me, and I feel free. I feel free to be able to tell anybody. I even tell my friends I've never heard about it. And now I find out a lot of my friends have been raped too, and it's friends that I've been close with for years, so I could relate to what their story is now too.
Wow. How did this experience of abuse and then the healing influence your perspective on life and how you approach helping others? I mean, you just shared that first it was just having the courage to tell one person, and it's okay, even as we bear in mind those who are listening today. You shared with Zeta, a good friend and fellow staff person at church. You shared with her, and you said, "I'm not ready to share this publicly." And I want to honor that, because we would absolutely never encourage someone to share that before they are ready. But that seemed to be like a first step for you. And then there was this moment where you shared it with a bunch of young people. One of the things that you've said to me, so I do want to start here. When I've asked you, wow, Andrew, how have you found such amazing just courage to continue to share this even more openly, and that freedom that you found? Well, you shared with me that the key to that was forgiveness. So before we kind of go into this helping other people, let's talk a little bit more about you. What does that mean, that forgiveness really was the key to unlock that prison for you?
Well, through all my trials and tribulations and all the struggles that I've gone through in life and all the abuse I've been through, I learned forgiveness was meant for me. Forgiveness took me from being an angry man, a sad man, and a depression, and it freed me. Forgiveness is meant for us, and it doesn't mean that we have to go out and tell everyone we forgive them, but in our hearts, when you actually forgive someone, you feel free. You feel really on top of the world, and that forgiveness. Jesus died on the cross for us to do forgiveness, and so who am I not to forgive anybody? And I always got to think of why Jesus Christ died on the cross for me was to forgive me from all my sins so I could have eternal life.
So first receiving the forgiveness and then extending it. How would you say that as God has healed you, how has that influenced your desire or even your approach to helping others?
To help others, with kids that I work with, even adults that I work with, it's really to help them know that forgiveness is key, and also that we could relate to each other, and also that I understand where a lot of their anger comes from, because a lot of anger is built up in our hearts and our emotions because of what's happened to us in our past. And it's a fear of telling people what's going on and what's truly happen to you because you think everybody's going to judge you. So to explain to people that you're not going to be judged once you find the right person to speak to, and it's freeing.
Wow.
Andrew, for all the years that we've known you, we've seen you not just receive the kind of freedom that you described that comes with forgiveness, but do the work to embrace the healing that God has for you, to overcome these things that have happened in your past. But we also recognize that the big theme of your life is giving back to others. You don't just sit back and receive God's goodness. You're constantly pouring out to other people. What specifically inspired you specifically to become involved in mentoring incarcerated youth, and how does your personal story play a role in that decision and that commitment?
So, I think a lot of kids and even adults are incarcerated because they were lost. They didn't really know what direction to go to. And even my life, I didn't know how to talk to my family. Also, my family was some of the people that brought me down in life. So I always went searching for a new family, and I searched through a new family through gangs and all that stuff until I found my Christian family, and I found a true family that loves me. But how it's helped me is I kind of understand what they're seeking. When you're dealing with a lot of the kids that are incarcerated, even in our youth ministry, you see they only have a guardian. That could be a grandparent, that could be a grandparent, that could be just a mother. A lot of time there's not two a part of it. And I understand that. I was raised by a single mother. My father wasn't in my life until about 18 years old, and it was hard to forgive him and stuff. So I understand with these kids that they're seeking just to be seen. They're seeking to have a family. They're seeking to be loved. And I think it's helped me to go in there and just show them that, hey, you could be loved by somebody that isn't family, and it could be a love that's unconditional. Because I think when you're looking for love and looking for families, there's always something you have to do. When you're in a gang, you have to go hurt people. You got to be a part of this. You got to listen to somebody. But when you find that unconditional love through Christ, you learn that I don't have to do nothing besides love others and be a fisherman of men and women, and teach them to follow Christ, and hope that little mustard seed gets watered to be a tree.
So, Andrew, I'm curious because I know that it is in your heart to serve others. Can you describe a moment when in your own personal life, someone for good, because you talk about the negative influence, as human beings, we're always looking for connection, we're looking to belong. We have that need in we teach families that every individual needs to be somebody and belong, and that we will seek that out in positive or negative ways, in harmful or helpful ways. That is what you're describing here. And that so many of those who are incarcerated or who are struggling, they have those needs. There's nothing wrong with those needs, but they're seeking opportunities to get those needs met in ways that are really destructive. So one of the things that I would love to hear more about is, when did you have someone influence you for the positive? So can you just describe someone who was a positive mentor in your life?
Yeah, I actually had a teacher in high school. He was actually the dean of all students. And that man supported me to the T. I got in trouble and stuff, and he helped me get out to out of state and stuff. And even to the point when I was in trouble and stuff, he would pay for my UAs, and sometimes I wouldn't use that money to go do the UAs. I'd actually study for those UAs. And but he was always a good support and stuff, and he always was somebody that cared for me as a father figure. And he really helped me out in life to show me that, man, there is one person that cares for you. But I didn't actually see that until probably a couple of years, that unconditional love and also having boundaries and a structure. At that time, I didn't feel like it was meant for me, but now I see what he was doing, and he truly cared for me. That's why he built the structure, and he loved me for who I was.
Wow, what an amazing encouragement to those of us who are trying to be a positive influence and don't see great outcomes right away. That's a great encouragement, because now you can recall and you're ready to receive and even continue to learn from what he did back then, that someone did care about you. So what about just why then now do you think that it is important to mentor others, to pass it along, so to speak?
I think it's important because they need to know. I believe Jesus gives us trials and tribulations so we could share it to people. And they need to know that you don't have to stay in that bad spot. You don't have to stay in that hurtfulness, that anger, that depression, that you could overcome all that by surrounding yourself by the right people. If that's church, family, or even just kind of walking away from your situation. I know when me and my family came to Christ, we had to completely walk away from all of our friends, and we had to stay away from everybody because I didn't need that influence in my life. Because once you have that influence in your life, it's easy to stick to that influence. It's easy to jump back into that lake with everybody else. So it took us a while to be able to go back around them and stuff. And now we see that we're meant to go over there to be the light in the darkness. So even then, it's kind of hard for them to accept us, because everyone thinks I'm too good to be around them and stuff because I'm a pastor now. But I think Jesus would go into the dark spots. So why wouldn't I not go back to the dark spots?
It's awesome, Andrew. And so you're here you are, you're going into the dark places, engaging with young men who are in a really broken place in their lives, and you've gathered some other men who kind of share the passion that you do to give back, and who have similar parts of brokenness in their stories. What would you say are some of the most rewarding aspects of mentoring for you, and how do you measure success? How do you know that the kinds of impact that you're hoping will happen are happening in the lives of these young men?
So in this kind of mentoring, success isn't what everyone thinks. It's not where they come out and say, hey, I give my life to Christ and I'm ready for this whole thing. Success is when the kid opens up. Success is when they're willing to speak to you about their problems and be willing to share what's going on in their life. And we've already been seeing that in our mentoring in the juvenile system, and it's been really cool. So I think success, everyone thinks about this big picture, but success is little steps at a time, just of them opening up and sharing to us.
It's awesome. And what's most rewarding for you, would you say, if you think of this experience, what's the biggest takeaway for you?
Truly, I love praying. And so when you have someone ask you to pray for them where they're not probably used to that, one of the most rewarding prayers that I got to do was a couple weeks ago. And the kid it wasn't asking for anything. He said, I just want to be thankful for everything that I have. And, that's a hard thing to be thankful. They're sitting in jail. They don't really have much. One thing that they look forward to is being able to get a body wash, being able to step up to getting this certain body wash, where we think that's a little thing. To them, that's huge, to be able to wear a pair of shoes from the outside. I think I just was blown away when I said, hey, what would you like to pray for today? And he said, let's just pray for what we're thankful for. And I don't think I do that all the time too. So it was actually not encouraging to me. It was rewarding, but it was also, hey, maybe that's what I need to do more with my life, is be thankful for some deodorant, to be honest.
Yeah. Wow. So, Andrew, how do you address the challenges and the obstacles that come? Because there's always, no matter what we're doing in life, there's like this honeymoon period where things all seem great. But you know, the reality is when you choose to step into someone's life as a mentor, that you're going to hit some roadblocks. So, how do you address those things as they come up?
There is that honeymoon stage, you know, even when we brought our son into our house and stuff, he was so thankful, and now he's a little wild sometimes, but we're grateful for that. But I think you're going to see that because, you know, when you're mentoring other kids or mentoring anybody, there's other outside influences. Not everybody in their life's going to have a godly influence. So you got to think of that. You can't take it to heart. You can't, you know, even if you were to get cussed out or anything, you can't take any of that to heart. You got to understand where they're coming from and that they're influenced by others. You know, it's really hard where you have this wonderful conversation with somebody and they're talking about how they want to become a young disciple. Even incarcerated, they want to become a young disciple. And then they come back and you find out, well, they didn't have that good of a week. Because then you feel like, well, did I fail that kid? But no, trials and tribulations happen all the time. And I think you just got to be patient and show them true love still through all their things. I can't get mad at them and be like, hey, man, we just talked about this last week. Why'd you go up and screw up? Well, we got to understand the enemy's here to kill, steal, and destroy. And he's a part of all of our lives, no matter what we think.
It's great. You shared some great stories, Andrew, and just kind of some highlights of how you've seen God use the obedience of your willingness to mentor these young men in hard places. Is there another story, any specific story from your mentoring journey overall that kind of highlights the impact of this work?
You know, we're getting accepted more into not just their lives, but we're getting more accepted into being a part of their mentorship with their therapists and being a part of those meetings and stuff. To me, that's really big, you know, being incarcerated in the same place, you know, to be able to get beyond those doors and go through the front door instead of the back door. It's amazing. But, you know, when the therapist came and talked to the other mentor I'm working with, and they invited us to be a part of the staffing and about their, like, what's further on for their life, that's a big step, you know, because they're accepting two strangers that they truly don't know, that they don't really even work with. We're working with the kid that they want us to mentor, but they don't know who we really are. But they're accepting us to walk into their life now and accepting us to be a part of not just a kid's life, but part of their success in the jail. And that's working with their therapists and working with the staff, because these staff don't know who we are. And a lot of the mentors that we bring in there or have a past, you know, so we don't look like your average Christian mentors that you're walking in there. But I also think that's the hands and feet of Jesus. Jesus would want to bring people that doesn't look like they should be in there, because that's who he goes after, is the broken. So that's just, I don't know, to be able to be a part of their brokenness and also be welcomed into by the staff, that's truly rewarding right there.
Yeah, Andrew, this partnership that Finally Home has with you and this group of mentors that, as you've said, have lived experience. Most of our mentors have been incarcerated at one time or another, have found freedom and healing, and now want to give back. And it's miraculous. And what you're describing in building trust with not only the young men, but the staff there who really are inviting you into conversations that impact the young men's future, it's nothing short of miraculous that I believe Jesus has opened those doors. And I have to attribute it to your humility. You're really helping to lead the mentors and also model this kind, compassionate, understanding, gracious just humble. You are a humble man, and that opens people's hearts and minds to wanting to hear what you have to say. That is what is going on, at least from my seat, what I'm viewing. And we couldn't be more excited. I also love how we are able to serve at that facility and listen to what they have to say as well. I think God honors those things. And I think no matter what kind of mentoring that our listeners might be involved in or feeling called to, that is key, this humility. And you really model it for us. So on that line, what advice, Andrew, would you give to someone who's considering becoming a mentor? And I'm going to specifically say for at-risk youth. I mean, all of us are at risk, but when we use that term, we're often describing youth, whether they're incarcerated, at risk of being incarcerated, they're a foster, adoptive, in a kinship family. What it means is that they have more than just the average going against them. And, you know, the percentages of young people who've either been in foster care or who are headed to foster care, who have some sort of interaction with the juvenile system, is astronomical. And that is why Finally Home is a part of this work, because that overlap is significant and not something that we can deny. So we are talking about at-risk youth. What advice would you give to someone who is considering becoming a mentor for an at-risk youth?
Well, first of all, I would say you're going to be shocked, but don't let them see that. Let them see that you truly care for them. Be a person that listens and loves them. And so I want to bring up a Bible verse, because in James, it talks about how we should live our life as a Christian and everything. And I think one of the best advices you could get is from the book of James. And it's my phone locked up on me, you guys. I'm sorry. But just you find guidance from James, but it also tells us to be, it says, my dear brothers and sisters, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry, because human anger does not produce the righteousness that God desires. And that's James 1:19 through 20. And I think that's really a good Bible verse to live our lives through. If you want to be a part of mentorship, you got to be a listener. It really doesn't matter what we think. If we could just sit there and be listeners and not tell them how they should live their life, that's all these kids are, even adults. They want somebody to listen to them, because a lot of times while they're incarcerated or in trouble or in risk and stuff, it's because no one's listened to them. And everybody always wants to fix them, but no one wants to listen to them. So if you could just sit back and listen to them and show them that you truly care and love them, that's going to be the best thing you do in anybody's life, is just being a listener.
So good. So good, Andrew. I want to, we're so grateful, and I want to say thank you just on a couple of levels. First of all, just for your willingness to share these parts of your story and just to be so vulnerable and open with us today, because I know that, God, our stories, our stories have impact for other people. And so thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you for saying yes to this opportunity. Of course, when this request was made of us, you're the first person we thought of in terms of who would have heart for this, and who could rally some other people to meet this need in our community. Thank you for saying yes to that. And maybe most importantly, thank you for who you've become and who you continue to become in your healing. It's one thing to be willing to be used by God. It's another thing to just surrender to the Lord day after day and say, God, I want to be what you want me to be in the lives of these young men, because this is such critical work. And so thank you also for staying on that journey and just continuing to become who Jesus wants you to be for your own healing and for the sake of these young men that you're pouring your life into. So again, we are so grateful to you.
Yes. And I think too of the temptation it would have to be, Andrew, is just to shut the door on your past and to want to move on, not think about it, not go back. And yet, as Mark has said, you have received the healing. You have walked in the healing of Jesus. And now you've said, okay, now I'm ready. Even what you described about going back to old friends, you knew there was a time where that wasn't wise, but you didn't stay there. And I think there's so much wisdom in all of the things you've shared, Andrew. And Mark and I can testify to the fact that you're living them out. So even as we, just address our listeners, that, we would never suggest that someone who is in the midst of their struggles all of a sudden, now, like, that they would go and they would try to be a mentor, or they, like you said, would try to continue to hang out with their same crowd. It's like there's a time and a place. And how you've described Jesus saving you, you walking in his healing for a time, choosing to not be in environments that you knew would pull you down. And then when the time came, being called to go back into those places and be the light of Christ. We can learn, all of us, so much from that. And then this heart that you have to serve specifically these young men. And as Mark said, the privilege we have to partner, to link arms with you to do that. So thank you. And that is all for this week. What a blessing this is to us. We look forward to being with all of our listeners next month, as we actually are going to talk about mental health and how it's related to physical health, and how we can take care, when we take care of our bodies, it takes care of our minds, and just the impact of how mental and physical health is interrelated. Make sure you subscribe and hit the bell so you get notified when we publish a new video. We will be live each month for the Family Journey Show, as well as sharing additional resources in between you won't want to miss out on. Thank you, Andrew, for being our friend and for being our partner in ministry. It is an honor to know you.
Thank you, guys, and all glory goes to God.
Amen.
Amen.
Becoming a foster, adoptive, or kinship caregiver is exciting and scary all at the same time. There is no way of fully knowing what personality the child or children will have, or what trauma they have experienced. Finding the resources to help you navigate the day-to-day challenges can be tricky. This is where Resilient Roots comes in. This annual membership is the toolbox you need to support whole family strengthening. You'll have access to on-demand videos from our trauma-informed, research-based curriculum that teaches each member of your family how to speak up, listen, and cooperate. By building these foundational blocks of family communication, each family member will feel valued, heard, and truly understand their big emotions. Learn more by visiting finallyhome.net/resilient-roots. Use code FamilyJourneyShow for 50% off your first year.